Welcome to Dental Success Beyond Chairside, the podcast that is dedicated to revolutionising the way dental professionals succeed beyond the dental chair. Join us for a unique blend of insightful interviews with industry experts and valuable tidbits of information to help you thrive in your dental specialist practice. In each 20-minute episode, we'll delve into a variety of topics, including HR, marketing, innovative techniques and systems, and AI, to help you transform your practice and unlock its full potential. Whether you're a dentist, specialist, or oral health therapist looking to enhance your practice, this podcast is your go-to resource for professional, personal, and profitable success. Get ready to go beyond the dental chair and discover what lies ahead in your practice journey with Dental Success Beyond Chairside. Welcome to Dental Success Beyond Chairside. As a practice owner, how often do you really analyse your numbers? And more importantly, do you understand what they're telling you? Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Sunil Purba, founder of the Integrated Executive. Sunil, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Michelle. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this.
I have as well, and I'm looking forward to what you have to share. Sunil is a chartered accountant and experienced healthcare executive. He's the former CEO of the Invisible Orthodontics and brings a unique commercial lens to what it really takes to build a financially fit and growing orthodontic practice. Sunil, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey and share the challenges faced by the industry along with financial metrics for ortho practices?
Absolutely, I'd love to. Maybe I'll start with my journey. I'm a chartered accountant. I've been in professional services and business for 20 years now. It's pretty much on 20 years. I started in 2005 as a graduate at PricewaterhouseCoopers. Spent a lot of time doing business performance improvement and restructuring as part of the team there. And then just over 6 years ago, I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to join the Invisible Orthodontist. That opportunity was through the Duncan family, who I'm very grateful to and for. The Invisible Orthodontist, for those of you that don't know, is a service provider to orthodontic practices all around the world. Started here in Australia, based in Adelaide, and grew quite quickly to over 130 members and over 250 practices globally. And what we did was we helped them from a growth perspective. We provided all aspects of growth and in-practice consulting. We had this lovely little community of orthodontic practices who were leaning on each other for content and education and just, discussing how to run a practice. And that's kind of where I cut my teeth, so to speak, in the industry. Before that, I had done a bit in healthcare, but obviously not as much. In the last 6 years, that's really been quite refreshing. It's a beautiful industry. I speak to so many people that say once you get into it, you never get out. And here I am. I've now started my own practice and consultancy that focuses on helping orthodontic practices in particular, but specialist healthcare practices as well. And my focus is really on trying to help on the business side of things, given my background, and trying to take away some of that noise, pressure, giving you a better understanding of your numbers, but not only just giving you a report and saying, here you are, here's how you track compared to your peers and your colleagues, but then, okay, well, what does this mean for you going forward? What are the opportunities? What can we focus on? And really trying to tie that into personal practice goals. That's very important for me because every business owner has a different priority, has a different goal, has a different focus. It's not all necessarily about growth. A lot of it is. A lot of practices are in that stage where they do want to grow, but a lot of it's different. A lot of practice owners are now looking at succession and freeing up some time and making sure they have the right structure and system in place as they head towards the twilight. It's really sort of tailored to different practices. So that's a little bit about me and my background. You asked a bit more about financials and benchmarks and stuff as well.
Yeah.
And look, that's a very good question. I guess, in the last few years, there's been a lot of challenges. It's not necessarily unique to orthodontic or healthcare practices in general. Small business owners have had a lot of challenges, but Plus, there are impacts specifically for ortho practices as well. That's a result of a number of things. There's been a lot of change, and there's been a fastening of change too in the last 3 years. You've seen a lot of service providers, a lot more options in the industry. You kind of combine that with a lot of economic uncertainty. Specialist healthcare practices have gone through this period where, on the back of COVID, and just coming out of COVID, they benefited a lot. A lot of them saw exponential growth because there was a lot of funding and government stimulus that was put into the economy, and consumers didn't have a whole heap of places to spend that. You couldn't travel, you couldn't really do renovations to your housing. A lot of people used that money for the specific areas they could, and healthcare was one. These ortho practices came off COVID and had some great years, probably some of the best years that they had on the back of that. But then there was I won't say bust, but there was the trough that came with the peak. And that's probably been about 24 months now. There's been that sort of boom that's been coupled by some tough economic times, a lot of consumer uncertainty, and a lot of change in the industry. You've got this phenomenon where they're used to having a lot of money, and that's got to sort of come off a little bit. Consumers are not sort of as loose in their purse strings as they were because of the stimulus that was provided a few years ago. And you've got all these options now. So you've got all these practice owners, business owners have all these options available to them. What that has done, it's created a lot of noise and a lot of pressure to change and to do things differently and to try to sort of bring back some of that growth that they're used to seeing. It's been a period, particularly in the last 12 to 18 months, that's been a lot more challenging for them. What I try to do is try and take away a lot of that noise and really focus on, okay, well, what's going to make a difference? Where do you want to get to? What's going to make a difference? What problems are you trying to solve? Let's analyze them with a bit of data behind them. Let's analyze them with a bit of numbers behind them. Let's try and tie it into where you want to go yourself, personally, professionally, and make decisions based on smart data.
That is so good. Because, as you said, the landscape of the industry has changed quite markedly post-COVID. I must give a shout out to the TIO, because at the practice I was at, we were a member, as you said, coming together, and COVID, it just brought back memories of how we all got together to help each other. It was just an amazing, surreal time. So that was really good. But moving on, as you said, with regard to the economic uncertainty and what's happening in practices now, I think it's lovely as well that you do look individually at each practice. I noticed that a lot of practices, in any dental orthodontic specialist practice, as soon as they think, what are we going to do? They just pay for advertising.
Yep.
Understanding what those numbers mean to make a decision for the future. As you said, everybody's different, whether it's for personal growth, professional growth, to be successful, just to be able to work 3 days a week or to sell is really important. What sort of metrics, Sunil, do you look at to get an understanding to make decisions? Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'm not avoiding the question, but there are so many metrics you can look at. There's hundreds of metrics you can look at. So I'm happy to share some. At the end of the day, orthodontic practices, healthcare practices in general, they're not overly complex businesses. There's only a handful of levers that sort of drive performance. But what's more important is where you want to go to yourself personally and professionally. And that really drives what levers you're looking at. You know, in terms of metrics, you can look at efficiency metrics. If you're kind of happy with where you are, you don't want exponential growth, but you do want incremental, sustainable growth, you can look at efficiency metrics. You know, you'd be familiar with what some of those are: making sure that your chair utilization is where it should be, making sure your conversion is where it should be. Those are things that you can really keep an eye on. There's a handful more metrics that you can look at from an efficiency perspective. What percentage of treatments and conversions your team is doing versus you as a doctor, those sort of things. They're quite important for people at that stage of their journey. There's obviously growth metrics as well. You can look at those: your return on marketing, your revenue growth, your production versus your collections, all of those kind of things you can look at as well if you're focused on growth. There's a lot of practices that are focused on growth as well. And then there's your basic financial metrics. So where am I spending too much, or where am I potentially having opportunities to improve the financial performance of my practice? They're just financial metrics. You know, that's what I focus on and I'm comfortable on, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's how long is a piece of string. So you can look at a number of different metrics.
I must say, you talked about treatment conversions. If you looked at one thing, that's probably one of the best things to see what you're actually converting and understanding why you're not converting. Having someone in like you, because I see that as the biggest opportunity in any practice I go into. And cost of sales as well, lab and supplies, they're your biggest costs as well as personnel.
Yep.
Any
Yep.
practice. So monitoring those, but people would think, oh, consumables, they're quite cheap. But if you're paying big amounts for small things, a lot of them, it can actually add up to a big percentage over a period of time.
I'm going to put numbers out there. There's your staffing, which should be around about 30%. Then there's your lab fees, which, is around about 8 to 10, and your lab and your supplies, which is 5 to 7. So they're really the main things. But a lot of people, when they come to me, they're like, I want to get an idea of where I perform. I'm happy to do that. And I always do that. But I always also say to them, this really depends on what your practice style is. If you're a digital practice or that's your goal, your costs are going to be higher because the cost of digital tools are higher, but the payoff and reward is different.
Mm.
You should be able to see more patients. You should be spacing that time out between your visits. And you should have higher revenue, albeit slightly lower margin, but you should be more profitable and you should have more time. If you're not, then, are you doing it right? Or is there more that you can be doing to maximize those tools? It's really important for practices to, yes, understand their metrics and their benchmarks, but tie that into, well, what am I trying to achieve by understanding these?
Yes, and it's interesting that you talked about efficiencies and if you're digitizing and you're going to have higher costs associated, but obviously you've got your chair time opened. There's so many things that can help you now in specialists and dental practices. Obviously, dental monitoring is one of them, but there's so many other AI and efficiencies. I think growth or even just being sustainable for where you are is about patient experience. It's how you make them feel. It's how they feel that they're going to refer patients to your practice, that they'll stay. So you've just got that raving fan out there in the community, so they keep on coming to you. If you're able to spend more time with the patients to build up that trust, get taken away from things like Steri, where you might be able to automate things, Stop, where things can be automated, to spend that time and build that trust with the patients is really important. What are your thoughts with regard to that, Sunil?
I couldn't agree more. I've just, spoken at a few conferences, the Beg Society conference and the Ormco Forum.
Oh, yes, that's right.
I did emphasize this as one of my key points in relation to the industry changes that I spoke about at the beginning. There's a lot more competition now, and there's no getting away from that. And practices need to be aware of that. GDP competition, over 50% of GDPs offer treatment now, and that's going to be 65% within the next 1 to 2 years. There's no getting away from that. One of the main differentiators of specialists is patient experience. You are specialists. You've earned that right. You do provide better care. And the patient experience needs to reflect that. Consumer expectations have changed drastically as well. Patients want a seamless experience when it comes to booking, payment, visits. They want to feel special. They want to feel like they're getting better care. And practices need to be really on top of the game when it comes to that. It's so important. I couldn't agree more that that's one thing that I believe will continue to set specialists apart when it comes to their GDP competition. It's that patient care and excellence.
Yes, and I think, as you said, with GDPs, there is that more competition because it is quite lucrative for them to be able to get into orthodontics.
Yeah, and look, you've got to be honest with these things. There's a lot of orthodontists now that are working with GDPs in collaboration and training them, and they have that model. I know there's a lot of mixed feelings when it comes to that, but it's not going away. You see it in the US, you see it in the UK. You just need to accept that some of your colleagues are going to be doing that. And that's their own personal choice. They made that decision, and there's going to be more and more that I know, more than a handful that are doing it. That's fine. I think you just need to focus on yourself as a business owner and do the best you can. Because I do get a lot of questions around, well, what do you think about that? And what do you think about that? And there is often a bit of angst about some of that kind of stuff, but it's happening. It's going to continue to happen.
I mean, if you were a SWOT analysis of any business, your biggest threat is probably competition, but you can't concentrate on what the competition is doing. As you said, you have to look at what you want and how you do it. One of those things is the analysis of your metrics to understand and make good decisions about what you're doing. Very interesting. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would like to discuss today, Sunil, with our listeners?
I think it's very important to have an understanding of your numbers. I'm very much focused on giving you that understanding. The other thing that I think is relevant as well is I look a lot at economic indicators and factors as part of my role. I just enjoy it. It's an interest of mine. I do think that next year is going to be a better year when it comes to just general consumer sentiment and business. A lot of the economic indicators are pointing to that. Consumer confidence indicators, interest rates are coming down, consumer savings rates are dropping, which means they're spending more on those discretionary services. I think next year is going to be a year that's a bit better for most. The thing that I would recommend in practice is start planning. Planning now for next year because it takes some time.
Absolutely. You said that well, Sunil. I think what you're offering and just going into practices now, I think it's really good to outsell some of those services like yours so you can grow, and what you're investing in you, like me as well. It's quite small with the amount of knowledge we have to have that outside perspective where you're not there at the coalface making decisions because this person is going to be affected or this person is going to be affected, which is really good. Thank you so much, Sunil. For more information about Sunil and the Integrated Executive, please see our show notes. Thank you so much again for joining us, Sunil. We really appreciate your time.
No, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and thank you very much for inviting me. It's always been nice chatting to you, and I look forward to our next chat.
It's lovely. Thanks, Sunil. Bye. In our next episode, we'll take a closer look at the role technology plays in running a sustainable practice. I'll be joined by James Manny from CareStack, a leader in practice management systems and a strong advocate for smarter, integrated solutions in the dental space. We'll explore how your PMS can go beyond administration and reporting to become a true driver of efficiency, growth, and better patient care. Thanks for tuning in to Dental Success Beyond Chairside. See you next time.